Hello again. Thank you for watching. Just going to talk, as I said in the last video there, that I'm going to talk about my contract. And we hear a lot of the time in training, therapy contract, and there comes different contracts and contract. I don't really like the word contract, but that's essentially what it is, and it's not a legal document as we understand. But it basically explains and describes my contract. Anyway, it explains and describes how my practice is run and how I work within my practice. So I would have a lot of points in it. So you'd need to be able to say to your client how much you charge. If there's never a question around this, what I do is I do my, as mentioned in the earlier video, I do my meet, my online get to know me. If they then decide, yeah, I kind of like you, or I think we can work together, then I'll say, oh, that's no problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you on welcome paperwork. And in the welcome paperwork, I have my contract, my GDPR and confidentiality policies, and then I have directions to my house. So I have directions. Instead of just writing it down, what I've done is I've taken photographs of the road, the front of the estate, the front of the house, the side of the house, and the cabin. And at each point, I've written directions on how to get here. Now that it's meant to eliminate people calling to the house because that's my private residence. This is my business. It doesn't all the time. Sometimes people just don't read the directions, which is fine. But I am close enough that I can go out and say, sorry, no, I'm out here, and we bring them around the back. So it's important to have a contract, have something in writing to say this is how I work, because it eliminates any questions. So as we said in the earlier one about contact outside of sessions, I have that in my contract. I don't accept contact outside of sessions, and if you need to, you can contact these wonderful services, SOSAD, Samaritans, Pieta House, or in the case of emergency, the ambulance service. And then we'll go on and say, I highlight in my GDPR and confidentiality policies what outlining exactly what the confidentiality is that I can hold, and the limits to my confidentiality. I also name where, as therapists, we're all bound to be under supervision. So everything we bring to supervision, and in the confidentiality, I will say your history may be disclosed, but you will never be identified. So again, it's to reassure them that I am actually in supervision. Every therapist in supervision, but I'm not going to tell the therapist who you are and where you live. They don't know. The supervisor doesn't know that. It just gives them a better understanding of the therapy we practice. Another form I include in my welcome paperwork is an intake form. And it depends what you want, what information you need. So my intake form has name, address, date of birth, emergency contact number, and I have on the bottom of it, if I don't receive an emergency contact number or next of kin, I don't work with you. And the reason I don't work with you is because if something happens and if you've contacted me and you're threatening, you're saying to yourself, I can't go on, I'm going to end my life, who do I contact? So I have that in my contract, that if you don't have a contact next to kin or anything like that, if they don't have a contact next to kin, they'll always have someone that you can contact. So I'd always have, give me a contact next to kin. I'll have the next to kin's name and a number, but I'll always have a little thing underneath it in red to say, I will not contact this person unless there's a case of, in case of emergency or implied consent. So if the person's unresponsive and they can't say no, or they can't say, then it's my obligation. I have to be able to protect them. As well as that, if something happens while they're in the premises, if someone's in your room and they have a heart attack, or if they start to get sick or they need to be taken to hospital, we need to be able to say to someone, well, this is where they've gone. They may not be capable. So it's always worth considering that they have a next of kin. In the contract, there's a lot of things covered. If you're doing weekly sessions, these are your sessions. You pay 48 hours in advance. If you pay cash, you can talk. We need to talk about discuss holidays, downtime, etc. And if the client's going to take holidays, I need to know in advance, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So it's just really every single part of my practice, how I practice, so they know. And I don't require a signature in my GDPR confidentiality policy or in my contract, because again, it's not legally binding. And I put in it to say, like, you don't have to send it back to me once you've seen it, and once you've started therapy, that's your agreement. I have on the bottom of the thing, you've agreed to my contract once you've started therapy with me. And then the intake form doesn't need a signature reader. I just need the information, and then you send it to me. One of the things within the information that you may require is if the person has been referred to you, who has referred them to you, who has recommended you, which is a really interesting thing to put in your intake form. So you need to know as well, where are your referrals coming from? Who's talking? Like, is it coming mostly from GPs? Did you hear about it from someone else? It's a really good thing to have in your contract. And then any medications or any medical conditions the person might have, and that's really relevant. Now they may not want it, and I don't push anyone. Like, people can come and they might not want to put their date of birth in, it's absolutely fine. They may not want. This only causes a problem if there's a problem. So if someone comes to my house, if the ambulance comes to my house and they want information, and the client, who is their patient at this stage, can't tell them the information of the date of birth and stuff like that, it's just going to exhaust the process, delay it a little bit further. But if you've the next of kin, that'll sort itself out. So medication and stuff, that people may be reluctant to talk medication, but I'd ask for medication in relation to if someone in the room is presenting something and I can think, is this the medication that's causing this, or is this something else? It's really worthwhile. And then medical conditions, are you with a doctor, are you with a psychiatrist, do you have any diagnosis? If there's a diagnosis, this is something I can work with, which is really helpful. And it's really worth just considering all these things when you're thinking of forming your contract and going forward. Now, my contract at the moment is something like, I think it's about 5 pages. It's quite exhaustive, but basically, as far as I'm concerned, I have never got any problems. People haven't said anything to me that it's not good enough, because everything that I have in it explains everything. There's nothing left to question. And I always say to Bob, if you have any questions, I'm open to it. Ask me anything, but there's never anything left. I have everything covered. And I think it's really worthwhile, because if a client is coming to you, they need to know that they're protected too, as well as you. Anyway, I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, please do reach out and let me know. And if I can help you in any way, I will. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.